Okay, so you know how sometimes like Zuckerberg and Meta, they just do something and you're just like, wait, what?
Yeah,
Like, what just happened?
totally.
And this whole thing with fact checking on Facebook is one of those moments, right?
Absolutely.
So we're diving deep today and we're going to get into the weeds on this decision
Let's do it.
and look at why the reactions to this whole thing have been so, well, let's just say interesting.
Interesting is a good word.
Yeah, so to really unpack all of this, we're going to be looking closely at an analysis from the Ring of Fire,
Okay, cool.
which I think gives us a really interesting perspective on this whole thing.
Awesome.
So let's start with like the core change here, right?
Yeah, let's break it down.
What's actually happening?
So Meta, they're basically moving away from using independent fact checkers.
So it's like,
It's like they have this whole system set up to flag and label things,
right.
potentially false or misleading stuff.
Yeah.
And now they're kind of dismantling that.
Okay, so what does that mean, like practically speaking?
Well, the source we're looking at, the Ring of Fire, they point out that this could mean a lot more unverified stuff just floating around
Oh, wow.
on Facebook.
Hmm.
And they specifically talk about harmful content potentially increasing.
Like what kind of harmful content?
Well, they mentioned like horrible slurs against the LGBTQ community
Oh, gosh.
as a possible example.
Yeah.
It's like opening a door to a whole lot of stuff that was at least being flagged before.
Yeah, and I guess that leads to the next question, right? Like why would they do this?
Right.
What's the motivation here?
Well, this is where the Ring of Fire, their analysis gets really interesting.
Okay, tell me more.
Their interpretation is that this is all about trying to appease Donald Trump
Really?
and the whole MAGA movement.
Okay.
The idea is that by easing up on content moderation,
Especially like around political stuff, I'm guessing?
exactly, they're hoping to make Facebook a more welcoming place for that segment of users.
It's a bit of a tightrope walk, isn't it?
It totally is. It's like this balancing act between free speech and making sure the platform isn't a haven for misinformation and hate.
Absolutely. And I think what makes this whole situation even more fascinating
Yeah.
is the reaction from Trump supporters.
Right, because you'd think they'd be happy.
Exactly. Like, finally, Facebook is listening to us.
Like they rolled out the red carpet.
Yeah, but that's not what happened at all.
Not even close.
According to the analysis,
Yeah.
there's been quite a lot of pushback, actually.
And it's coming from some pretty big names in the MAGA world.
Oh, wow. So, like, who are we talking about?
Yeah. Well, for instance, Coco Shanahan, who the source describes as a Trump supporter, she really questioned the timing of it all.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right. She pointed out that these changes are happening after Trump might be back in office.
Hmm.
And so she's like, okay, this is pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Like it makes you wonder if Meta's being genuine here.
Right.
Or if this is just a calculated move.
It's almost like they're trying to get on his good side after the fact.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what about other reactions?
Well, Laura Loomer went even further.
What'd she say?
She's not just skeptical.
Yeah.
She actually wants an apology from Facebook
Really?
and get this financial compensation
Wow.
before MAGA even thinks about coming back to the platform.
So she's basically saying you need to prove you've changed.
It's a pretty strong statement.
It is, and it really speaks to a lack of trust, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it really makes you think about whether simply tweaking these policies is enough.
Because it's not just about the content itself.
No, it's about the history,
Right.
the past actions,
It's, like you said, actions speak louder than words.
louder than policies even.
Exactly. And then you've got Senator Marsha Blackburn.
Right. She's got her own take on this.
What's her perspective?
Well, she sees this whole thing as a ploy to avoid being regulated.
So she thinks it's about avoiding consequences.
Yeah, and she's pretty clear that she will not be fooled.
Hmm.
Which I think brings us to the bigger picture here.
Yeah.
The regulatory pressure that Facebook and other big tech companies are facing.
Right. And the Ring of Fire, they definitely touch on that in their analysis, too.
Oh, yeah, they actually highlight the FTC monopoly trial against Facebook coming up in April.
So is the idea that Zuckerberg is trying to soften his image?
Yeah, maybe make Facebook look more open to diverse viewpoints.
To kind of like head off any potential accusations of bias?
Exactly. It's like a
Yeah.
preemptive strike.
Right. And make the FTC think twice.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how much of this is about politics versus genuinely wanting to change.
Well, and the Ring of Fire, they point to some other pretty interesting actions by Zuckerberg that could be seen as attempts to cozy up to people in Washington.
Tell me more.
Well, they mention him donating $1 million to Trump
Wow, okay.
and hiring Trump's friend Dana White.
Interesting.
And then there's Joel Kaplan, who they describe as a MAGA guy,
Okay.
getting appointed to a public policy role at Facebook.
It sounds like he's been busy.
Right. Seems like they're really pulling out all the stops.
Yeah, and what's really striking is how the Ring of Fire describes these efforts.
How do they put it?
They basically say it's so obvious that it almost seems clumsy.
So they're not exactly subtle about it.
Not at all. They even compare it to Zuckerberg wearing a giant MAGA hat on the Meta building.
Which is hilarious.
It really drives home the point that these attempts at appeasement are anything but nuanced.
Right, and I think that's what's fueling the skepticism from the MAGA side.
I think so, too.
Because it doesn't feel genuine.
Yeah, like it's all just a big show.
Exactly.
And I think Senator Mike Lee's quote really sums it up.
Oh, yeah. What'd he say?
He said, "Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me."
Which is such a classic quote.
It is.
Yeah.
And it perfectly captures that feeling of distrust towards Zuckerberg.
Yeah, like they're not falling for it again.
Exactly.
So what does all of this mean?
Well, it seems like Zuckerberg has managed to get himself into a pretty tricky situation.
Yeah, he might have alienated both sides.
It really does seem that way.
Because on the one hand, you've got the left who are worried about the rollback of fact-checking.
Right, and all the potential consequences of that.
Exactly. And then on the other hand, you've got the MAGA, right?
Who are supposed to be the target audience.
Yeah.
But they're suspicious of his motives.
Right.
And not exactly rushing back to Facebook.
And I think the way the Ring of Fire sums it up really nails it.
How do they put it?
They say, nobody is buying it.
Yeah, which I think highlights the risk of making decisions that are seen as purely political.
Without any real conviction behind them.
Right, like it's all about strategy.
Yeah.
Not about genuine beliefs.
So let's just recap really quickly for our listeners.
Okay.
We dove deep into Zuckerberg's decision to scale back independent fact-checking on Facebook.
Right, a pretty big move.
And the main takeaway from the analysis we looked at is that this seems like an attempt to get on the good side of Trump and the MAGA folks.
Yeah, to kind of win them back.
But the surprising twist is that a lot of key MAGA figures aren't buying it.
They see right through it.
Yeah, they're suspicious of his motives, and some are even demanding apologies and financial compensation.
Wow. The analysis also points to other potential motives, like the upcoming FTC trial.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And ultimately, it seems like Zuckerberg has ended up in a situation where neither the left nor the right are particularly happy.
It's like he's stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, and the conclusion that nobody is buying it really sums it all up, I think.
It's a powerful statement.
It really is.
Yeah.
So this whole situation brings up some big questions, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It makes you think about the relationship between social media
And politics.
and powerful figures like Zuckerberg.
And the public's trust in all of it.
It's a tangled web.
Yeah. So what do you think about all this? What are the long-term consequences of these kinds of decisions?
That's a tough one. It's definitely something to think about. It really makes you wonder about the future of online discourse and the role of these platforms in our society.
Yeah, for sure.
Food for thought for everyone listening.